Well, g'day, and welcome along to another little video. Today we're taking a look at the new rental e-scooters that have just recently landed in Hobart City. A 12-month trial of rental e-scooters began just prior to Christmas 2021 after PEVs were legalised in Tassie in late November 2021. Already, the rental scooters have led to a number of injuries and more than a little controversy around Hobart City in just the few weeks since they've been introduced. Some have questioned the number of scooters that have been released, their placement around the city, and the timing of their launch, making the rental e-scooters a favourite pastime already for the local drunks and hooligans of a Friday and Saturday night in Hobart City. But despite the operations controversy and what some might call teething issues thus far, they've turned out to certainly be very, very popular, as anyone who travels through Hobart City at any time of the day recently or night can testify themselves. There's certainly been no shortage of families, couples and others all looking on with smiles and amusement as they try and work out these scooters and ultimately take them for a little ride around Hobart City. We've noticed it's definitely increased interest in the personal electric vehicle scene around Hobart since. So we decided it was high time we went and took a look at these scooters ourselves and let you know what we thought of them. But before we can do that, we actually have to find some rental scooters. Unfortunately, the only area in southern Tasmania that's you can find the rental scooters at the moment is Hobart City itself, and we live on the other side of the river. So Erica and I took a small ride down to the local ferry terminus at Belarive Quay, where we caught the ferry over to the city and decided to go hunting for some rental scooters that we could take a look at, test drive, review of sorts, and give you a little bit of an idea how the system works, how to go about renting one of the scooters, and what to expect. So hop on board as we take a ride into town and let's go find some of these scooters ourselves.
Do you have green cards?
No, we've got e-bike.
Yeah. Oh, right, yeah. How you doing?
For those of you who have tuned into our last few videos, you'll probably recognise this ferry. The Derwent Ferry runs weekdays during the early mornings and afternoon, commuter service from Hobart's eastern shore to its western shore. It's currently free for people who are travelling with bicycles or e-bikes, e-scooters, EUCs and electric skateboards. It's a great little service during holiday periods such as we're in right now. It also operates on a Saturday, so it's a good opportunity for your family and yourself to take a little ferry ride if you feel like it. Jump online at derwentferries.com.au where you'll find more information about the ferry, including a timetable. And here we are, Erica and I have arrived in Hobart's Salamanca Square. This is one of the most popular areas of the city, waterfront area. It's a tourist hub. It's also one of the night hubs where you'll find all the activities of an action of a Friday and Saturday night. And on any given day, such as today, it's also where you are guaranteed to find rental scooters, as you can see already. So let's find a little spot, somewhere cozy and comfortable. Let's grab ourselves a pair of these scooters if we can and take a closer look. There's two rental e-scooter companies participating in the trial in Hobart City, Beam and Neuron. Each have their own scooter respectively. the Neuron N3 e-scooter and the Beam Saturn. Well, here we are in Hobart's Salamanca Square. We've found ourselves two examples of the new rental scooters here in Hobart at the moment. We have the Beam and the Neuron scooters. We've rented both of these so we can have a bit of a look at each and take them both for a test drive. Both the Neuron N3 e-scooter and the Beam Saturn are similar in size and weight. Both come with the helmets. You'll notice that the Neuron is equipped with a bicycle style helmet, while the Beam has got a skate style helmet. Personally, I prefer the skate helmet design, they both offer similar levels of protection. Let's take a closer look at the Neuron N3 e-scooter. One of the first things I noticed about the Neuron was that it had pretty large wheels, 11.5-inch silicone solid tyres, so slightly larger wheels than the Beam. According to Neuron's website at rideneuron.com, the N3 e-scooter has a 21cm wide deck. It's quite wide, much wider than the Beam scooter's deck. Now we'll take a look at the Beam scooter itself. The Beam Saturn, sometimes called the Beam Solo, depending on which country you're in. Some people who are into their e-scooters may recognise instantly that this thing looks an awful lot like the Segway 9-Bot Max. Because indeed this scooter is based on the Segway 9-Bot Max. It's a very similar frame, very similar performance, very similar riding experience. However, the Saturn has solid tyres, which they've tried to compensate for somewhat by fitting a front suspension kit to these scooters. Unlike the Neuron scooter, which has no suspension at all. Now both scooters feature rules for their riding. We found on the stem of each scooter. They're pretty generic. They have an age limit, no drinking driving, always wear a helmet, only one person per scooter, etc. But of course the important question is, how do they ride? So let's grab each scooter, let's run you through the rental process and hit the track. First thing you're going to want to do is download the app for each scooter brand. It's available online in your Play Store or your Apple Store, and you'll find a QR code on the stem of each scooter which you can scan to take you directly to the app which you'll need to download. You'll then need to add your payment details when you set up an account. That's critical, of course, if you want to rent a scooter. Then you'll head to the geo map here. Much like Google Maps, you'll see that it shows your location on the map, and you'll also be able to see any available scooters in the area around you. Here we are zooming in on our own location. We've found a scooter right in front of us. By clicking on that scooter you'll see some details pop up showing its battery status, an estimated range, the scooter's ID number and more. Okay, let's rent that scooter. We'll press start ride, which will take us to the next screen. This screen explains the no-go zones and slow zones for the Beam scooter. The scooter knows where it is on the geo map at all times, and it will have areas programmed in around the city to restrict its speed. Depending on where you park your scooter at the end of your ride, you can earn yourself some free credits, which go towards reducing the cost of your next ride. Handy little initiative from Beam there. I believe Neuron do a similar thing. The Beam has two speed modes which can be adjusted with the little button on the stem. Here they recommend travelling in slow speed mode if you're new to e-scooters or if this is your first time riding one. Definitely a good tip. They do take a little bit of getting used to, even though they are quite simple to ride. Beam scooters cost $1 to unlock and then 45 cents per minute once you've rented one. Sometimes I guess if you're travelling a long distance you might need multiple scooters, in which case if you rent one scooter after another within 30 minutes, your next rental doesn't come with an unlock fee. Next it's time to activate your scooter, unlock it. You'll need to scan the QR code on your scooter's stem. That'll connect to the app and unlock your scooter. You're now ready to start your ride. The app finishes with a few starter tips, how to operate your scooter, how to kick up the kickstand and get going essentially. Once you're ready, press done and you're ready to start your ride. Well, actually there's one more step, and that is of course the helmet. In this screen the app prompts you to unlock your helmet. Once unlocked you can remove it size it up to your head. There's several adjustments on the chin strap and the strap at the rear of the head. Once you're comfortably fitted with your helmet, then you're good to go. Back on the GeoMap screen, you can keep an eye on your scooter's battery life and your ride length, etc. as you're going. But now it's time to get onto the road. I own one of the Segway 9bot Max scooters myself, and I could tell that the riding experience was very, very similar on the Beam Saturn. The front suspension forks definitely do make a difference, so at least for the bigger bumps it definitely soaks them up and helps compensate for the solid tyres. The Beam scooter accelerates pretty well. Even in the low speed zones where it's limited to 15 kilometers an hour, it tips up and down from that speed relatively quickly. It's a narrow scooter, so it's quite nimble, easy to do a little bit of carving and weave in and out of obstacles. And while nothing spectacular, the brakes are still reasonable and good enough to do the job. All rental scooters, and the Beams are no exception, are designed really for ease of use. As you can see there, I was riding one-handed. These things are incredibly well balanced, and even though I do not recommend that you ever try it, or certainly don't try it at home, these scooters will oftentimes drive in a straight line with no hands, which is quite unusual for little vehicles with scooter geometry. They're designed to last and designed to be ridden by people with little experience on scooters, which makes them great for the role of rental scooters. Also, I should mention that purple being my favourite colour. I do believe the Beam Saturn is quite a sexy looking little scooter, for a rental at least anyway. Pull up the app again, and once you're ready to end your ride, before you can, you'll be prompted here, as you can see, to return your helmet. There's a little locking clip at the rear of the helmet which will lock back into its holder on the stem. Once you've done that, the app will recognise that the helmet's been returned and you are good to finish your ride. To keep a record of where you've left your scooter and what condition it was in, as well as to help future users find that scooter when they need to rent it after you'll be prompted to take a photograph of your scooter in the location where you've parked it before your ride has ended. You then have an opportunity to rate the experience, where you're given a receipt and total bill for your ride. And that was the Beam Saturn, or sometimes known as the Beam Solo e-scooter. Quite a straightforward rental experience and a fun little scooter to drive. Now we're moving on to the little orange scooter, the Neuron N3 e-scooter. Just like the Beam app, with the Neuron app you'll need to sign in, create an account, register a payment type, and then find yourself a scooter to rent on the GeoMap. Once you've found one near your location, just like the Beam, you'll need to walk up to your scooter, scan the QR code on its stem to unlock it, and you're good to go. The fee for the Neurons is exactly the same as that for the Beams, at least at the time of this video. Just like the Beam, you'll be prompted to unlock your helmet first, unless of course you've brought your own. Once you've done that and you've got your helmet adjusted and on your head, you are good to go.
Hi, please check the brake and ride carefully. Remember to wear a helmet. We are in a low speed zone. Scooter will slow down.
There's one difference that's immediately noticeable from the Beam, is that the Neuron is actually quite talkative. There are several times during the process renting it and ending your ride, as well as riding, where the scooter likes to talk to you and keep you updated on information, as well as changes to the riding style. So let's try it out and hit the track. One of the things that was first obvious to me is there was really no difference in the suspension or comfort of the ride compared to the Beam, even with the lack of suspension. I think the Neuron makes up with this with the larger diameter wheels, which seem to soak up bumps and undulations in the track really, really well. Possibly combined with the wider deck too, the big flat deck on the Neuron certainly makes the ride a little bit more comfortable by distributing your weight as well as any incoming bumps. Also worth noting that the handle grips, they feel a little bit more soft and tactile on the Neuron than the Beam, as if their makeup is a little bit more silicone-ish than on the Segway scooter. That also contributed to the smoother ride I felt overall, which was not that different to that of the Beam scooter, even without the lack of suspension. The Neuron doesn't feel quite as nimble or fast as the Beam, but it still certainly pulls you around swiftly enough, and in fact I believe its wider body combined with its slower speed delivery makes it a little bit more suitable for a first time rider than the Beam perhaps. In terms of its looks and aesthetics, I guess the Neuron's in a league of its own. It's a custom designed scooter for this company and this role. It's not one that's been taken or copied from the mass market, unlike the Beam scooter. Its bright orange colour would certainly add to the safety factor, I suppose, but otherwise it's not too bad a looking scooter.
Let's get it started. Oh, there's a GoPro.
Why is there a stick?
There's a camera.
Anyway, a slightly different experience to the Beam and still a pleasant one. That was riding the Neuron N3 e-scooter. Ending the ride is much the same as on the Beam scooter. You'll end your trip in the app, where it'll first prompt you to replace your helmet, locking the clip at the rear of the helmet back into its place on the stem. Once it can confirm that you've returned the helmet, then it will allow you to end the ride.
Thanks. Our trip is ended.
One noticeable difference I've found with the Neuron service as compared to the Beam is you'll find a lot more payment options on the Neuron. Google Pay, PayPal, as well as credit card, whereas on the Beam app, your only payment option at this time at least is credit card only. So in that regard, the Neuron app has a bit of an edge. Likewise, the Neuron app allows you to look at your trip history, where a GPS map of your ride can be displayed. That feature isn't supported in the Beam app, though it will show your distance and time travelled. Overall, I believe the Neuron app is superior to the Beam app, and that's a separate game altogether than the scooters themselves, I suppose. Which I do hope you've enjoyed us taking a look at and taking a little ride on. We enjoyed both the scooters. This wasn't actually our first experience of them this video. My family and I did check the scooters out just prior to Christmas, just for around about an hour or two one evening. And we decided that we'd come back and make a video regarding them, and this is it today. They're both great scooters. If we had to pick a favourite, well, it's really quite difficult. They're both quite even. I think maybe if you're going for performance, acceleration and nimbleness, I'd probably say the Beam holds the edge just slightly over the Neuron. For comfort and ease of ride, soaking up bumps and that kind of thing, I'd say the scooters are quite reasonably neck and neck. As for cost, well, the cost at the moment is identical for both scooters, so there's no difference there. Aesthetics, I suppose, is personal choice, but I do think the purple Beam scooters do hold a very slight edge in their sleek look compared to the Neurons. overall, I think it really comes down to personal choice and, of course, what's available at the time when you're looking. These rental scooters are all about convenience, and often you don't have the luxury to choose brands. If you're looking for a scooter or need one, then you're going to take the first one that you come across. In that case, they're pretty much all even when it comes to locations around the city and the opportunities to ride one. As for Erica and I, we've really enjoyed our ride through the city today. We hope you enjoyed our look at the rental scooters, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. As for us, it's time to retrace our steps home. Until next time.